I'm a founder and CEO of Tech, a decentralized social media application.
Cool. Okay. So, first, very tough question for you two. What's been a highlight for you here in Denver? It can be food, it can be the weather, it can be open information house. So yeah, what's a highlight for you here?
So, if we had some big announcements, could that be a highlight?
It can be.
Okay, absolutely. So yesterday we announced that Chainlink CCRP is going to be integrated as our canonical bridge for new tokens. We also announced that EigenLayer is going to be coming to Metis. We're going to implement Eigen's data availability and also implement the liquid restaking narrative on Metis. To enhance this, we'll also be onboarding Renzo, enabling the easy ETH transfers seamlessly towards Metis, and backing up even more this liquidity layer that EigenLayer will create. And finally, DeFi Kingdoms. We announced that DeFi Kingdoms is going to launch their upcoming game that they have been working for the last 2 years on Metis. And it's going to be exclusively for Metis during the first year. So a lot of news and very exciting news overall. I think that will be the highlight.
Okay, cool.
And amazing sunshine in Denver.
Oh, you love the sunshine here. Okay.
Yeah, so mine's going to be a little bit more simple. So DeFi Kingdoms coming to meet us is really exciting for me as a SocialFi project because it helps us start to shape the future of where SocialFi can go, like what we've seen today. It allows for these crossover events and for some exciting stuff for people to come.
Okay. Wow, you guys are highlighting the process of the project. Okay, so next question for Jose. So we're seeing like centralized, decentralized sequencer gaining traction. And I've noticed that most L2 has their centralized sequencer, so that it makes sense that it works on L2s. But why is Metis starting to prioritize or making a decentralized sequencer? Because most of the L2s, for now, they did put this decentralizing their sequencer into a roadmap, but they're not prioritizing it because it's not definitely not lucrative enough for them to do so. And so why is it Metis doing this, and then what is it going to make difference of this realm?
Well, a few reasons. Most other layer 2s are prioritizing fraud-proof systems. We are going to implement validity proofs later on enabled by CKM. It's a zero, like CKBM, that is a sister company of Metis. So we're going to implement zero proofs later on or down the road. As of right now, we are prioritizing sequencer decentralization because we already have a network of over 100 verifiers within the layer 2, which to some extent solve or alleviate the problem of not having those fraud proofs live. So the idea behind decentralizing the sequencer is whenever you have one single sequencer, you can have censorship risk, you can have liveness risk. Like if the sequencer goes down, if that node goes down, the network goes down. So that's no bueno. And at the end of the day, like all that revenue is going to the foundation itself. And it's not, I mean, it's helping them to accrue revenue, to like build on the project, but it's not being shared or incentives are not being aligned across the whole ecosystem. What we're thinking by decentralizing the sequencer is solving that censorship problem or enhancing censorship resistance, enhancing liveness of the network, and aligning incentives across this whole array of network participants, node operators, builders, and end users. Every time that we've seen big influx of users coming into the crypto space, it tends to be driven by monetary incentives. We have seen it in GameFi, we have seen it in the different crypto waves, and layer 2s have still not reached that mass adoption point. We believe aligning incentives across all these network participants is going to be a key step to achieving that mass adoption for the layer 2s.
Okay. So to extend on that question, what do you think is the key challenges in implementing and maintaining decentralized sequencer, and how do you address these challenges?
I mean, I would say you can never really decentralize the sequencer from one day to another. Like, it's a gradual process. So, I mean, it's something that is not going to be immediate. And also make sure that these sequencers are actually contributing to the network. And to some extent, having governance or having some type of way to dictate what sequencer nodes are gonna come in, and what will be the different parameters needed. For example, how many tokens you're gonna have to need to stake, how many protocols or nodes can the sequencer manage at a time without really compromising security. It's a progressive or gradual approach. So I think the main challenge will be that initial implementation is going to take some time, but I mean, we're ready for it.
Cool. Okay. Next question for Christian. So recently, I believe you just released your mainnet. Testnet. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, what makes you ultimately chose Metis as your place to build your application?
Yeah, so what made us choose Metis was actually for me, it was the sister company ZKM and what they're doing with the ZKVM and really like changing how ZKPs work and having them be interoperable through that ZKVM. And so that's one of the main reasons that I chose to work with them, and then hearing about how they're working on their decentralized sequencer, like it's very similar to what you're hearing in a lot of the news with Web2 social media, is that it's kind of centralized. And in the same way, if you have a centralized sequencer, you're trusting that centralized source with all of your social data, and then basically all of it working.
Okay. So to extend on that question, so you are building a SocialFi project. And so SocialFi is definitely gaining some traction after the frame from Farcaster. But then we're seeing a lot of SocialFi failing in the last world. So what do you think is the key thing that's going to push forward the project of the SocialFi? Is there any like things that you should be watching, or any things that you're currently working on?
I think it really comes down to understanding who your attainable audience is of users. And right now, it's DeFi natives. It's people who understand the industry, it's content creators, and how do you create an ecosystem where they're successful. So the only way that we feel like our project is going to be successful is if we have the right toolkit for those KOLs, for those content creators to be able to build and be successful on their own and pull in audiences. And so that's something and then where I think things get really interesting is like this next version of SocialFi, which is you kind of see this in Warpcaster and in different areas of creating these experiences that didn't otherwise exist. And so, that can be done through cross-promotional events, it can be done through digital assets. Like there's a lot of fun things that I feel like haven't even been tapped into with the SocialFi space that I'm excited to tackle.
Okay, cool. So, next question for Jose. So there are L1, L2s, a lot of different ones out there. What would you say is your main focus on Metis? Saying if there's a SocialFi is your main focus, DeFi projects, anything else, GameFi?
I wouldn't say we have a single focus. We're predominantly DeFi, we have a very strong DeFi ecosystem, but we're not limited to just DeFi. We're actively trying to onboard SocialFi, which we succeeded at, onboard different gaming dApps and different sectors of the crypto industry. So in terms of how we would differentiate ourselves or kind of what we are doing that others aren't, I think it's all about going back to incentive alignment. We recently announced the Ecosystem Development Fund. When it was announced, it was standing at $100 million. It's currently over $500 million. And this fund is gonna make sure, it's gonna fund all these ecosystem projects. The more the more these projects are incentivized, the more daily active users, transactions, and TVL we're gonna see in the network. And what does increased transactions mean for the sequencer? Increased revenue. So by decentralizing the sequencer as well, it's not only sequencer or enhanced revenue for the foundation, it's for all the network participants. And since the foundation is also going to be operating a portion of these nodes, there's going to be a lot of this revenue that is going to go back to Metis, going back to the Ecosystem Development Fund, and keep feeding this growth cycle that will take our ecosystem to the next level. So I would say that's the main difference, kind of the vision that we have and how we aim to be truly a self-sustainable ecosystem.
Okay. And then what do you think that makes Metis stand out of, because there's a lot of L2s out there right now, and what do you think that is making Metis stand out?
I mean, we currently have the lowest fees in the L2s, among L2s. The yesterday we made some big announcements, like the initial question that I responded. I think that's also a great incentive for different projects and users to come into Metis. Because there's, like with CCIP, there's a lot of projects that can build on top of it and can take advantage of that Metis tooling or infrastructure. And the same case for EigenLayer, and even Renzo to some extent. So I think we're having a lot of building blocks that we're bringing to Metis, and this is creating a very suitable environment for developers. And in terms of users, I think the sequencer is supposed to launch in about a month. So once the sequencer launches, I think we're also gonna have a strong enough incentive for users to come into the network. So I would say that those two things are what are gonna make us different to other layer 2s.
Okay. So this question is for both of you. So if, say our community member or say I'm a developer, I want to tap into the ecosystem or the project, how can I do that? Like where do I go? Is there any documentations or is there any grant? What should I do?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a builder, then you want to go to our website and you want to go to the funding tab. Because, like I said, we have the Ecosystem Development Fund. It's currently standing at $500 million. For 2024, we committed 250,000 Metis tokens, which is currently around $30 million for ecosystem grants. So we're very, very, very focused on our ecosystem development and growth and developer onboarding. In terms of users, I would highly encourage them to follow our Twitter and get into our Telegram and Discord channels. Our Twitter is very, very fun. We have a super active community, and our Telegram and Discord channels are also very active. A lot of interesting people in there and a lot of funny people in there as well. So it's a great community.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would say if you want to get involved with SocialFi, go to lead.tech. We launched our testnet 2 days ago when December started. We're super excited about that. And we have some different badges you can earn, which are really tester badges and super tester badges. And on our website, you'll be able to see how you can contribute. We have an open Trello board where you'll be able to vote on features or things that you want to see. And I would say just be engaged with us. We want to know what works for you. We want to know what doesn't work and kind of what gaps you see in the industry. If you're a builder that wants to build a layer on top of SocialFi, which we do have a few in the hopper right now, I would say the same thing. Reach out to us inside of our plan for our token. We're also going to have a growth and ecosystem fund, which is specifically for like I don't know, it's that L2 to SocialFi. There's lots of different ways and lots of different projects that can be built on top of these social projects.
Okay, there's a DGen question. Is there any airdrop?
Yes, just by being, so we're testing what am I supposed to, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what's cool about these tester badges is there's a base one, but here's some alpha. The super alpha tester badge we're calling it. These are given out manually by our team. So if you're really active with us or really engaged, it's actually worth like quite a bit. So to get that, it's actually a pretty big deal. It's almost like earning the highest tier once we've launched, which is kind of fun, a fun way to give to contributors. And just for signing up at ETH Denver, at the Metis booth, the CKM, there's also like a special ETH Denver badge that you'll get, which will also increase the airdrop.
Going right away after this session.
That potential airdrop.
I mean, maybe.
Yes. Okay, I'm going there right there later. So last question is gonna be like a big question. So this title is open information. So what is open information or open web to you?
So I can take it first. I mean, what is open information? In my opinion, would be global, or not even global, like being able to access all the information, but nowadays we see a lot of this information siloed or kind of like keeping it private and creating information asymmetry along the industry. This can affect education, this can affect market dynamics, this can affect a lot of different things. So there's more than one type of information, and all of these, I mean, at the end of the day, we aim to make them public or accessible by everyone to the same extent. It's not fair when certain of the participants have better information than others. It's not fair for kids, like also for kids, to not be able to access. any of this information. And even if we go to a blockchain type of scenario, it's also great that like one of the main use cases of blockchain is that transparency and enabling that open information. I'm from a Latin American country originally, so I've seen state funds being used for things that are not supposed to, and people cannot do anything about it or even know about it or find out about it. So by implementing just blockchain technology, we're taking a big step into this open information and just knocking down not only like entry barriers, but this information asymmetry that we currently see a lot in the world.
Okay, well said.
For me, open information is important because it's how I believe we're going to onboard like the rest of the world, right, into that. And what I mean by that is like, okay, so blockchain, yeah, it's all on a block explorer, go look at it, but the average person really doesn't ever know how to do that. And so how can you put the right information in front of a consumer to really understand what they're getting themselves into? So how does that lead into things like, you know, what's like a zero knowledge proof reputation system look like? What is there a way of where you can have a trusted way of knowing who you're interacting with, whether it's a KOL that you're trusting who's tweeting about a new project, or whether it's about the project themselves. Like how can you have that information? It's almost like a due diligence tool, because the average consumer isn't going to know what to do with a block explorer, probably never will.
Yeah, I agree 100%. So that is my last question. Do we have any questions or comments from the audience?
Come on, don't be shy.
Okay, that'll be all. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys.
Thank you.